Esther, a biblical drama. Scene 1. The royal banquets and Vashti's demise. Narrator. This is what happened during the time of Xerxes, the Xerxes who ruled over 127 provinces stretching from India to Kush. At that time King Xerxes reigned from his royal throne in the citadel of Susa. In the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all his nobles and officials, displaying the vast wealth of his kingdom and the splendor and glory of his majesty. King Xerxes, lavishly dressed, is in high spirits, surrounded by his nobles and officials. Wine flows freely. Queen Vashti is in another part of the palace, hosting a banquet for the women. King Xerxes, bring Queen Vashti before me, wearing her royal crown. Let her display her beauty to the people and nobles, for she is lovely to look at. The eunuchs depart. A moment later they return, looking nervous. Eunuch 1, Your Majesty, Queen Vashti refuses to come. King Xerxes' face darkens with fury. He consults his 7 advisors. King Xerxes, according to law, what must be done to Queen Vashti? She has not obeyed my command. Memucan, Queen Vashti has done wrong, not only against the king but also against all the nobles and the peoples of all the provinces. Her conduct will become known to all the women, and they will despise their husbands. Therefore, if it pleases the king, let him issue a royal decree, never again to be repealed, that Vashti is never again to enter the presence of King Xerxes. And let the king give her royal position to someone else who is better than she. King Xerxes, so be it. Let the decree be written and proclaimed throughout my vast realm. Narrator. And so, Queen Vashti was deposed, and the search began for a new queen. Scene 2. Esther becomes queen. Narrator. Later, when King Xerxes' fury had subsided, he remembered Vashti and what he had decreed about her. Then the king's personal attendants proposed, let a search be made for beautiful young virgins for the king. Young women are being brought into the harem. Esther, a beautiful Jewish woman, is among them. Mordecai, her cousin and guardian, watches from a distance. Mordecai, Hadassah, my dear, remember what I told you. Do not reveal your nationality or family background. Trust in the Lord. Esther, I will. Mordecai. Haggai, the king's eunuch, oversees the women. He is immediately impressed by Esther. Haggai, you have found favor in my eyes, young woman. You will receive the best beauty treatments and special food, and I will assign you 7 attendants from the king's palace. Narrator. Esther pleased Haggai and won his favor. Every day, Mordecai walked back and forth near the courtyard of the harem to find out how Esther was and what was happening to her. After 12 months of beauty treatments, it was Esther's turn to go in to King Xerxes. Esther stands before King Xerxes. He is captivated by her beauty. King Xerxes, you are more beautiful than any other woman, Esther. You have won my favor and approval above all the virgins. He places a royal crown on her head. King Xerxes, I make you queen instead of Vashti. Let there be a great banquet, Esther's banquet, for all my nobles and officials. Narrator. And so, Esther became queen of Persia. Scene 3. Haman's plot and Mordecai's plea. Narrator. During this time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. He had uncovered a conspiracy by 2 of the king's officers, Bigthana and Teresh, who were plotting to assassinate King Xerxes. Mordecai reported it, and after an investigation, the 2 men were impaled. This was recorded in the royal chronicles. Haman, a proud and arrogant official, walks through the king's gate. Everyone bows before him, except Mordecai, who remains standing. Haman, who is that man who refuses to bow to me? Servant, that is Mordecai, a Jew, your excellency. Haman, it is not enough to lay hands on Mordecai alone. Since they told me his nationality, I will seek to destroy all the Jews throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. Narrator. Haman cast lots, called Pur, to determine the day and month for the annihilation of the Jews. He then went to King Xerxes. Haman, there is a certain people dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom whose customs are different from those of all other people and who do not obey the king's laws. It is not to the king's advantage to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them. I will give 10,000 talents of silver to the king's administrators for the royal treasury. King Xerxes. The money and the people are yours to do with them as you see fit. Narrator. Dispatches were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with the order to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and children, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. Mordecai is in sackcloth and ashes, wailing loudly. Esther's attendants report this to her. Esther, go to Mordecai and find out what is troubling him. The attendant returns after speaking with Mordecai. Attendant, he says Haman has issued a decree to destroy all the Jews, and he asks you to go to the king to plead for your people. Esther, all the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that they be put to death, unless the king extends his gold scepter to them and spares their lives. And 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. Attendant, Mordecai says, do not think that because you are in the king's house you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Esther, go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. Scene 4. Esther's courage and Haman's downfall. Narrator. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace, in front of the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the hall, facing the entrance. King Xerxes sees Esther. His face softens, and he extends his gold scepter. King Xerxes, what is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom it will be given you. Esther, if it pleases the king, let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him. King Xerxes, bring Haman at once, so that we may do what Esther asks. King Xerxes, Esther, and Haman are at a lavish banquet. King Xerxes, now, Queen Esther, what is your petition? It will be granted you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom it will be done. Esther, my petition and my request is this. If the king regards me with favor and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for them. Then I will answer the king's question. Haman is boasting to his wife, Zeresh, and his friends. Haman. Queen Esther invited no one but the king and me to the banquet she prepared. And tomorrow she has invited me again, along with the king. But all this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate. Zeresh. Have a gallows built, 75 feet high, and in the morning ask the king to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then go with the king to the banquet and enjoy yourself. Haman. That is an excellent idea. Narrator. The suggestion delighted Haman, and he had the gallows built. Narrator. That night the king could not sleep, so he ordered the chronicles, the record of his reign, to be brought in and read to him. It was found recorded that Mordecai had exposed Bigthana and Teresh, 2 of the king's officers who had conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. King Xerxes, what honor and recognition has been given to Mordecai for this? Servant. Nothing has been done for him. King Xerxes, who is in the court? Narrator. Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the palace to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai on the gallows he had built. King Xerxes, bring Haman in. King Xerxes, what should be done for the man the king delights to honor? Haman, for the man the king delights to honor, let them bring a royal robe the king has worn and a horse the king has ridden, one with a royal crest placed on its head. Then let the robe and horse be entrusted to one of the king's most noble princes. Let them robe the man the king delights to honor, and lead him on the horse through the city square, proclaiming before him, "This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor." King Xerxes, go at once. Take the robe and the horse and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Do not neglect anything you have recommended." Haman is stunned, but obeys. He leads Mordecai through the city. King Xerxes, Esther, and Haman are at the second banquet. King Xerxes: "Queen Esther, what is your petition? It will be granted you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom it will be done." Esther: "If I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition. And spare my people, this is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, because no such distress would justify disturbing the king." King Xerxes: "Who is he? Where is the man who has dared to do such a thing?" Esther: "An adversary and enemy. This vile Haman. Haman is terrified." King Xerxes rises in a rage and goes out into the palace garden. Harbona: "Look, a gallows 75 feet high stands by Haman's house, which Haman made for Mordecai, who spoke up to save the king from assassination." King Xerxes: "Impale him on it." Narrator: So they impaled Haman on the gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's fury subsided. Scene 5. Deliverance and Purim. Narrator: That same day King Xerxes gave Queen Esther the estate of Haman, the enemy of the Jews. And Mordecai came into the presence of the king, for Esther had told how he was related to her. The king took off his signet ring, which he had reclaimed from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther appointed Mordecai over Haman's estate. Esther: If it pleases the king, and if I have found favor with him and to his liking, let an order be written to revoke the dispatches that Haman devised to destroy the Jews in all the king's provinces. King Xerxes: Write another decree in the king's name in behalf of the Jews as seems best to you, and seal it with the king's signet ring. For no document written in the king's name and sealed with his ring can be revoked. Narrator: So on the 23rd day of the 3rd month, the month of Sivan, the king's royal scribes were summoned. They wrote out all Mordecai's orders to the Jews, to the satraps, governors, and nobles of the 127 provinces of King Xerxes, from India to Cush. The new decree granted the Jews in every city the right to assemble and protect themselves, to destroy, kill, and annihilate any armed force of any nationality or province that might attack them and their women and children, and to plunder the property of their enemies. Narrator: Mordecai left the king's presence wearing royal garments of blue and white, a large crown of gold and a purple robe of fine linen. And the city of Susa shouted for joy. For the Jews it was a time of happiness and joy, gladness and honor. In every province and in every city, wherever the king's command and his edict reached, there was joy and gladness among the Jews, with feasting and celebrating. And many people of other nationalities became Jews because fear of the Jews had seized them. Mordecai established the Feast of Purim, to be celebrated annually on the 14th and 15th days of Adar, as days when the Jews got relief from their enemies, and as a month when their sorrow was turned into joy and their mourning into a day of celebration.